C2 Wrestling Podcast back again. CTD and Snowden. Another week in wrestling goes by. Not gonna lie, Snowden. It's tough with work for the both of us finding time to not just do the podcast, but also do videos and stuff like that. But it's like the least stressful part of my day. What like even when my day is busy and it's like you and I are always trying, these things are very scheduled because we both are so busy.
Yeah.
This is like the decompression time. And it's so enjoyable to just hop on, talk wrestling, freestyle, whatever. It's so nice.
It absolutely is. I look forward to this more than anything the days we do it. For all those diehard C2 wrestling fans out there, we've said this before, we'll say it again. We are regular people. I know you hear that a lot out there. A lot of these, we're not famous, not even saying it like that, but you hear a lot of these people say, we're just like you regular people. We work jobs. I come home, I make dinner, I shower, watch some TV. We do whatever we got to do in between work to get this stuff done. But it's also a lot of why you've seen a lot of solo videos between us. We are not always off at the same time. We can't always get together to do these things. So the podcast specifically, which is guaranteed weekly, we really schedule out. So we knew for a couple days we're doing this today. We're going to film this. Today is Tuesday, our time. We're going to drop this on Thursday. We dropped the podcast. But this last week in wrestling, we went through a lot just through our wrestling reviews and last week's podcast. So I don't know if there's too much hot topics to talk about off the top of my head, but it's been fun, man. This really is, as you said, the decompression time. Even in a night like tonight, where even I was on my way home from work driving here, like, what are we going to talk about tonight? We don't have like a theme really, but I'm still like, I can't wait to just get on. I can't wait to just podcast.
Yeah, it's just, we've said it before. It's just most of the time we'd be texting about these things anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just sticking a mic in front of our face. But it really is like fun. It really is just downright.
Yeah.
I know for some people it is jobs. Like this is fun. Like I love this. This is the fun part. And I think there's some people that, when we start doing more live streams, they'll get to see a lot more of the unedited
Yeah.
versions of us, which to be fair, like we don't cut anything out,
Nothing's gotten cut. And to this
Yeah.
point, nothing's gotten cut.
Yeah. We're not like out here doing something outrageous that it has to be cut. But it is when you're live, it is just a completely different ball game. And I think there's just so many fun ideas that I have for not just the
Mm-hmm.
podcast, not just live streams, but the channel itself. That it's like each month we kind of hit a certain point where we're dead busy. One of us
Yeah.
or both of us are so busy. And then we kind of reach a point where we both have free time. Like we saw at the very beginning with like SummerSlam around that time, we both had plenty of time. Now we're reaching a point where we're both slammed, and then we're going to get a little gap where we're both free. Obviously, things are much nicer when we can get together in person, which hopefully we
Mm-hmm.
can do more of in the future. But I just look forward to like when I'm like, oh, I have a week off from work. All that's on my mind is like, oh, I have a week off. All right, I'm going to work out and I'm just going to do stuff for the channel.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. On my days off, I'm like thinking, like, man, what can I do? And I'm like looking up even just equipment and whatnot. Like, how can we enhance what we're already doing? We are still very early into this. This is the early days, day one, still, in my opinion. We got a lot to go. Wrestling is never ending. There's no off season. We say there's an off season, and we're in that stretch right now. Still 52 times a year, 52 weeks a year. There's wrestling all around. We're not going anywhere. So keep with us. Gonna
Oh,
be
yeah.
having fun.
And this is just, we're doing it because we love to do it and we're going to keep doing it because we love talking wrestling. There's no easy transition. There's no good transition for what we're going to talk about. Something that happened a while ago that we haven't really talked about, uh, but will be mentioned because of the shirt I'm wearing. Chris Bay, and TNA wrestler, for those of you that don't know, suffered a terrible injury. We don't know a ton of updates because, first of all, you got to respect him and his family's privacy. Obviously, going through a very tough time. Everything that we saw, you know, it's scary.
Mm-hmm.
It was a quick reminder of wrestling is not safe. And as fans, you know, I know Chris Jericho has a quote about hating the word botch. And like we throw words around like that all
Mm,
the time. But as fans, we really do take for granted that it can be the most simple move that they do 1,000 times in a year.
yeah.
And that could be life changing. That could
Yes.
be, you know, not career altering, life altering. And so I'm not saying fans that we take things for granted, but it is moments and injuries like Chris Bay where you do kind of take a step back and you're like, this the cliches of this is not ballet, all those things, they all feel much stronger when something like this happens because it is extremely sad what happened with Chris Bay, and we obviously hope the absolute best for him. I bought the shirt as soon as they released it. All proceeds go to him and his family. So hoping nothing for the best. A
Shout it out.
fantastic
Where'd you
wrestler.
buy that tee?
Pro Wrestling Tees. This I believe the GoFundMe is still up if you want to donate on the GoFundMe. This was on Pro Wrestling Tees if you want to cop it there. I am an Atlanta guy now. Chris Bay around the area. I know a
Same
guy who knows
name
a guy.
too.
Yeah. I know a guy who knows a guy. I'm buddies with someone who's friends with his friends. And he told me that he's in good spirits. I don't, know how much of a direct quote that is, but sending well wishes to him and all of his close friends and family. It just sucks.
It absolutely sucks. And, again, injuries in wrestling to any level, from a sprained ankle to whatever had happened with Chris Bay, are never good. I think the way this injury was handled by the wrestlers, the talent around him, all over online, everything shows that this is not a sprained ankle. This is a bad injury. There are injuries all the time. Again, none of them are good, but injuries are handled many of ways. The way this one has been handled doesn't seem like it was a good injury by any means. It's definitely a little bit more long lasting than the sprained ankle or the broken finger or whatever it may be. So we all hope for the best for Chris Bay. He's a fantastic talent, man. He's one of those guys that, especially right now, was on the rise, perhaps too. So it's awful timing. The GoFundMe, though, tell you what, hell, we'll post it in the description. Go down, donate to Chris Bay. Why not? It's great for that to happen. I love to see all the names in there, honestly. We got a lot of talent as well donating to Chris Bay's fund. It's cool to see the community of wrestlers come together. There might even be names in there that don't even know him, but a wrestler goes down and we all come together to help him out. And that's great to see. Chris Bay, we hope for the best for you, man. I don't know how long it's going to be if we ever get to see it in that ring again, but I just hope it is good vibes. I hope you're feeling good. That's all we want.
For sure. And we've mentioned wrestling, the wrestling fans. This is a big community. It is a niche thing. It's crazy to call it niche because it is so massive and it's essentially its own language that if I see a person out in a Mets jersey, there's one out of maybe 50 or 100 times I'm going to make a comment to that guy. Let's go Mets, whatever. Eagles jersey, a little different. I'm saying go Birds every single time. Think in your life, almost any time someone's wearing a wrestling shirt, like there's always that acknowledgement, whatever. You and I both have worked jobs where you could wear different shirts. Now we don't,
Yeah.
but you could wear a wrestling shirt and someone comes in and, hey man, like your shirt, whatever. Like
Yeah.
it is a universal language. It is a community. So not saying, the old cliches of a nicer guy, like it's such a nice person, such a great person for this to happen to. It's terrible. This is someone that grew up in the online wrestling community. There's
Mm-hmm.
pictures of him with replica titles. Someone that, as crazy as it sounds, we've kind of all watched him grow up in front of our eyes.
He's one of us.
He's one of us.
He's no different than you and I sitting here doing this podcast. It's as if one of us made it big in wrestling. And it is crazy to see. He is a fantastic talent. I was really hoping to see him in WWE one day on a bigger stage, and maybe it's still possible. It really is unfortunate. I believe it happened during a taped event we had discussed too. So I don't even know if it's ever going to make air. It's nowadays those things don't often make air. Even in football per se, they don't show the injuries as much anymore. So maybe it gets cut and we never actually see it. But again, I don't think it was good based on the way it's been handled. But hopefully the recovery fund, I haven't actually checked the GoFundMe. I'm sure it's up there. I hope it's hit the number, the goal he needs to reach. But there's a lot of aftercare too. You don't go through an injury of what he had happen and just come right back. There's a lot of rehabbing a lot of time. Big E, we haven't seen wrestle, may never see wrestle. We might unfortunately be in the same boat with Chris Bay. And it's a shame to see. Again, he is one of us. He's a part of the community. So that almost makes me feel even more upset to see it happen to, as we're kind of saying, couldn't happen to a nicer guy. That is a little like cliche, but this could happen to Alberto Del Rio. So
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely couldn't happen to a nicer guy in Chris Bay. Just make a little light of the situation,
Yeah.
But whole point is Chris Bay, we hope for the best.
Absolutely. And one last thing on Chris Bay, as a avid TikTok user, so many times I'd be on TikTok and he'd be live just talking to fans. And there'd be a different number each time. Didn't matter how few or how many people were in the live. He was on there. Just he'd be watching Raw, and like it'd be essentially like a watch along, just talking wrestling.
Yeah.
And one of the more like, yes, we see him on screen. Yes, we see his character, the ABC, like, but just a very relatable person. As you
Mm-hmm.
said, just one of us.
Yeah.
So all thoughts go out to Chris Bay, still super young. No idea what the future could entail. But to me, the wrestling career is coming second. I hope everyday life he can get back to and then get to doing what he loves. Him, similar to Big E, they're so charismatic, they're so personable that this is a guy that is going to find his way doing something in wrestling because he has the love, he has the passion. So I know this won't be the last we see of him. He will be back someday, and I can't wait for that day. So I was sending all the love and the positive vibes to Chris Bay.
Absolutely. And WWE has said this plenty of times. None of us listened, but don't try this at home. It is a dangerous sport, we'll call it. Man, I've hurt my back taking a bubble bomb as a kid or something. Like it's not safe. We'll put it that way. And when I think of injuries like this, I often think back to Big E. His on-air injuries that are really career-ending are far and few between, thankfully. An Edge injury was an overtime thing, so we didn't really see it happen in one swift move. I often think back to another TNA wrestler in Jesse Sorensen, and it's crazy to see. Lost my train of thought there for a second. Crazy to see anybody get injured. The Chris Bay one, I'm at a point where I don't need to see it. I don't care. I don't think they need to air it at this point. Again, the way they've handled it has again proven to me that he's been taken care of. It's just terrible. Again, I hope TNA is taking care of him. I feel like TNA is a bigger umbrella than it once was. Only a few years prior, and they have an affiliation to WWE now. I just can picture if this type of injury were to happen, say under a WWE ring, the conglomerate, like there's so much care in that company, medical, physical, things like that. They have the best doctors in the world, So I just hope there's people out there helping them, things like that. I
I'm
see you got something to say.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm very sure Sean Ross reported that TNA is handling his medical expenses.
Absolutely, yeah.
Um,
I had assumed,
yeah, I vaguely remember someone trying to give him shit in some reply, like what, you know how Twitter is, just people going after nonsense or whatever, or trying to say things are for clicks, whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm pretty sure the article had said TNA is taking care of him. So
Mm-hmm.
all the best to him. Again, we probably should have mentioned it earlier, but you know, for me, I always feel weird with something like that because it is newsworthy and it is more relevant at that moment. But I always feel awkward talking about something like that while everyone's talking about it because you don't know all the details. Like all I could do is just send well wishes. I don't know all the details. You don't want to. The worst thing you could do is assume things.
Yep.
And then also like, thankfully, he's alive. He's
Yeah.
not dead. Like I don't want to
Yep.
talk about someone like they are not with us for
Mm-hmm.
when they suffered a traumatic injury, but they're still here. So
Yeah.
it's always like very awkward when it's fresh. And, I never really know how to talk about it when it first happens.
I agree. And, it is a great thing that he's still alive. And I understand that might sound crazy to say, but it's happened before. I believe it was in 2015 with Rey Mysterio involved. I believe his name was Perry Aguayo, so, along those lines. I forget the company it was for, but he passed away in the match. I believe it was in the drop toe hold to the 619, the way the rope caught his throat, something along those lines. Sorry if I'm incorrect here. I don't have all the details offhand. I just can kind of faintly remember this. Passed away. That's a accident. No, that how many 619s or Mysterio's done in his time. How many drop toe holes, how many times guys have fallen to that rope, and it happened this time. It could happen on any move. And I don't know. Again, we don't know the extent of this Chris Bay injury, where it happened, how it happened, but it happened. And all that matters at this point is him getting his health back. Again, wrestling even is second. I would hope he can walk. If it's that type of injury, I hope he can breathe and eat. And still enjoy his life and have some sort of involvement in wrestling, whether it's wrestling or commentary or behind the scenes or backstage, whatever. Again, he's got a love for it, just like we do. It's great to see somebody that comes from a life like us make it to the level he's made it.
Yeah. So all the best to him. Just going to flat out say this is a topic. There's just no easy transition into a different topic. The easiest transition is to say, well wishes. We're going to go back to talking about random wrestling things. There's no great way to transition from one to the other. I know we kind of joke around where it's like, oh, speaking of that, whatever. There's no good
Alberto Del
transit.
Rio.
Yeah, yeah. There's no good transition. There's no appropriate transition. So
Yeah.
putting a bow on that conversation and moving us on to the rest of the podcast where we ramble, talk nonsense about
Mm,
wrestling. I do have to mention the crazy thing that hit me. We do this podcast about an hour long each week.
yep.
Two people. We say all the time how sometimes you get a topic and you do a 20-minute video and you're like, I could have talked for an hour by myself. We
Mm-hmm.
talk about wrestling so much. It's insane that I used to do a wrestling radio show for before I had co-hosts. I did it by myself. No callers,
Yeah.
just talking out to the local area for over 2 hours.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
insane.
It is insane. And, the level of wrestling fan we are, like many of us out there, we are wrestling encyclopedias. It is, if you were to test me on anything in the world to get the most knowledge out of me, it would be wrestling. That's what I know more of than anything. And there's a lot of us out there. Me alone, I can ramble. I love wrestling. If you ask me, I'm going to go. I can just spit. I'll give you whatever knowledge I have. You put me in the room with someone like you, now you got two of us, we can go forever. It's endless content. It's been on forever. It's never ending. There's always more to talk about.
Always. So let's start rambling and get on to WWE. One
Absolutely.
thing WWE, I don't think they officially announced it, but I do know you sent it to me on Twitter, X, whatever
Mm-hmm.
the hell you want to call it. And I know you have a strong opinion about it, and I kind of differ with you. So I think it's a good thing for us to talk about. Saturday night's main event
Uh-huh.
has been announced for a while, will
Yep.
be December 14th, roughly 13th,
Sounds
14th,
about right.
one of those days, whatever that Saturday is,
It's on a
obviously.
Saturday, yeah.
Yeah. So on NBC, there
Mm-hmm.
also was news and reports that there's going to be another
Mm-hmm.
Saturday night's main event the week before the Royal Rumble.
Yep.
And I know how I feel about it. I know how you feel about it, but I'll let the people hear your thoughts before mine.
I fucking hate it.
And scene.
Scene. uh, Listen, I'm maybe not on record with C2, but you can attest to this. We both are on record with each other at least, absolutely shitting on AEW, in all honesty, for having all in and then all out a week, 2 weeks back to back. Now, listen, those are mega pay per views, PLEs for AEW. It's not like they're running the Royal Rumble and then 2 weeks later it's WrestleMania or whatever. I get it. But I believe they've signed on for 4 primetime events a year. NBC, 4 a year. Quarterly events. You run it just like you would the NXT pay per views. Quarterly events. You do December, January, a month apart. Then what are you doing? June and October? Sure. Yeah, I get it. But the one in January is not going to have nearly as much hype as this initial one in December is. If you were to hold off the January one until May, whatever, I don't know, then it has more hype again because it's kind of gone. It's coming back. The first one was big. Oh my God, it's happening again. What do you run at that event before the Rumble? I get it. Maybe it helps put some feuds going into the Rumble, but we're talking literally 30 days. You know, that's basically the time it takes to get from a pay per view, a PLE, which they're going to treat Saturday night's main event like it is, to the Rumble. So we're kind of just shoehorning another show in there. It feels like we're throwing a Saudi show in there to me. It really makes that January one feel like an exhibition.
It is essentially an exhibition, and I'm not going to praise it for being so, but we've had these shorter card PLEs. That's the MO, and we love them. Honestly, it's great when they end early. I've more time to talk wrestling, do a video, go to bed at a decent time. I hate watching UFC pay-per-views that go on till 1:30 in the morning and I'm exhausted.
Agreed.
The Rumble is a maximum 5 match pay-per-view. Maximum.
Yeah. Yep.
2 of those matches, you already know what they are. And it is the Royal Rumble for the men and the women's, obviously. That leaves you
Yeah.
with only 3 matches. Previously, the Raw and SmackDown have been decently relevant. Normally, before a big PLE, you get the tag title match or the mid card title match, or maybe if the women, one of the other women's title is on that. With having that spot there, that's where those matches go. Now you also add in there's going to be another women's title. I think it's just very easy to do that show the week before the Rumble, just because the Rumble is such a standalone and has such the unique match where you and I are in the same boat. We hate having champions in the Rumble, but
Yeah.
WWE is still going to do it. So they can
Yeah.
have the United States title match happen on Saturday night's main event, and the outcome isn't affecting anything with the Rumble. Say this was the week before Survivor Series, you're not going to have Seth Rollins versus Bronson Reed at Saturday night's main event, and then the next week they're in the War Games match against each other. That's terrible. Like that is, that's very repetitive booking. You're seeing the same stuff over. Since it's the Rumble, I think this is the only event where you get that leeway. If it was before a Mania, before really any other PLE, I would be in the exact same boat as you. I think it's horrible. Because it's the Rumble and you have those 2 big matches, and that takes up the entire show, and it really doesn't matter what other little stories you have. That's where I'm like, okay, it's fine.
Well, see, I know you'll agree with me here. We've probably discussed this before. I'm surprised the Rumble has not been made a 2 day event. I see why
We're getting
Mania
there.
is. We're getting there, of course. I thought the Rumble would be the next event to get that instead of SummerSlam. The Rumble is made for 2 nights, in all honesty. Now that they have a women's Rumble, you have the women's Rumble on one, the men's on the other. And then you can fill it with maybe 3 or 4 other matches per show. And you got a full card again. I get it. I think December is honestly like a perfect month for a Saturday night's main event because they don't usually run a pay per view in December. They haven't in a while. I think TLC used to run in December, but it's been a minute since that. Running a main event in December makes sense. January, February, March, April, 4 months. Obviously, got Mania coming up. So that does, timing is a little weird to run it quarterly in that sense. I think Saturday night's main event would then fit the bill post Mania. If you run it kind of May, you kind of fit that along the backlash time frame. And then again, you run it quarterly from there. You can run it in the summer, you run it back whenever. I don't know. Do the math. But something about just shoehorning this show in when it's not necessary. We have this mega January 6th Raw that's about to happen. Now, yeah, that's still 20 days out from the Rumble, but there's so much that can go down there that you can make happen leading to the Rumble. I like the SmackDown and the Raw the week of maybe being a more so stacked show if they can't fit the card. Don't get me wrong. I want this match and this match to be on the main show. I absolutely get it, but it just can't always happen. Sometimes you got to run those matches on the weekly show to get a more suited card. I'm sorry, we're on record saying this again. The 19 match cards suck. 6, 7 at most. Depends
Seven's
on what you're
pushing
doing.
it.
Yeah, I was gonna say that depends on what you're doing. Maybe I don't know.
Seven
There's
if
a
it's
limit.
if one or two of them is on the pre-show.
Sure, yeah, or like maybe one of them's like a quick, I don't know, jobber versus whoever match, whatever. Somebody debuted and they're squashing somebody, something. It's a lot when you're doing these big match cards. So I understand wanting to spread the wealth of what they have out. I just think this one they're really shoving in there, and they don't need to do it.
Yeah, it feels if they weren't going to Netflix, say this was next year,
Yeah.
it feels like you kind of split the difference and it's a much better spot.
Mm.
If this were, the first end of the first, beginning in the second week of January, that's the first one you do because it's not exactly on top of, Survivor Series at the end of November, but it's not close enough to the Rumble. You put it in the middle to where another PLE would have been
Mm.
if you were doing a day one again or something like that. It kind of slides into that spot. But I do agree, having the Netflix show, which is supposed to be treated like a PLE as well, the debut episode, having that on the 6 really makes things difficult. Again, I mean, we're spoiled here. This
Yeah.
is, we're
Yeah.
we're talking about
I'm complaining about having more great wrestling.
yeah,
Like
exactly.
I'm not that upset if I'm being honest.
Of course, but I do agree with some parts of yours because
Yeah,
we don't want Saturday night's main event to be like Crown Jewel. What Crown
exactly.
Jewel just was like a
Exactly.
glorified exhibition where stories are really not stories. Like that's not what we're interested in. We are interested in the long-term stories that they tell, the the matches that have substance and the payoffs of stories and storytelling. Not saying you're not going to get it on the Saturday night's main event. It is just more possible that it could be that route for when it's right before a massive PLE.
See, now talking through it again, it makes me think, right? December, Saturday night's main event. January 6th, mega pay per view Raw. January 20th, whatever, Saturday night's main event. February 1st, the Royal Rumble. That second Saturday night's main event sits right in the middle of essentially 3 pay per views, if we're going to call it that, 3 PLEs. Now, this upcoming Saturday night's main event in December is shaping out to be special, in my opinion. New women's United States champion is going to be crowned at that show. That's big for the women. Cody Rhodes versus Kevin Owens seems pretty slated for that show. That's a massive feud right now. It's getting so much traction. They are maybe not even getting the credit they deserve in that feud right now. That's probably the best thing going in WWE, I can argue. With the bloodline kind of on a little bit of a downhill slope with the addition of Bronson and Seth and all this going on. That KO Orton Cody triangle is maybe the best thing going right now. You throw that title match on that show. Cody Rhodes himself it was born to main event a Saturday night's main event. That's the guy for it. The image of him holding that title on a show like that is going to be shown for years. Maybe you throw a Gunther on there versus Damian Priest. Maybe you get the Guns on there versus somebody. They really stacked this main show. It's going to be special. Again, when you run it again a month later, in between another January 6th PLE, Monday night, or not, sorry, Monday Night Raw is January 6th. Royal Rumble, February 1st. What are they gonna do? Run the WWE Championship match on that show? They could, but like that would still be one of the 5 matches on the Rumble show. So what are you gonna do? Run the Raw tag titles on that second one? Run the IC? You could, but like it's not as special as that first one. If you wait the 6 months again, the 4 months again, that time lapses. Oh wow, it's coming back. It was great that first time around. The first one might be successful, but I think the second one is going to put a damper on that show as a whole.
What if what if we get this? Something you want and I don't.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. We could. I was thinking that before, actually. I didn't bring it up
On the
because
second one, that would be.
yes, yes, of course. What we're talking about here is Goldberg. Goldberg, I was thinking about this before.
Goldberg.
Goldberg, I was thinking about this before. I actually meant to kind of mention it. He mentioned a 2025 retirement match. And before he had mentioned that, I had said he fits the bill against Gunther for Saturday night's main event. I still think he does. He's obviously not going to be at this December one. I would not hate it at a Saturday night's main event past that. But now that we know the future of Goldberg, he's going to have a match. It's more so fitting the bill for a SummerSlam. Maybe it's even Mania or something that it does a future Saturday night's main event. I
Probably a
just think
Saudi
this,
show.
a Saudi show, of course, yeah. They're going to pay him a gajillion dollars. They're going to make up a new number to get
Yeah.
Goldberg down there. So it's fine. Get your pay, Goldberg. It's cool. We want to see everybody get paid again. But this initial Saturday night's main event, you can hate Goldberg. You can love him. If you want to sell tickets, you want to get people tuned into primetime TV, a Goldberg match, man, that's bringing an audience. Like it or hate it, there's old school heads out there that watch WCW, that Goldberg era, that might be flipping through those channels, and maybe they see him around, and that brings new life to wrestling.
I think the first Saturday night's main event will be main evented by Cody taking on Kevin
1,000%.
Owens.
Yes, yes.
I would love Gunther to get the main event of the second one for whoever he faces, whether it's Goldberg or not. I don't care. Because I could see one of the two titles not being on the Rumble, and the other one being the main event of Saturday night's main event. And I think it's more
Yes,
likely that you have Cody on the Rumble,
correct.
maybe even opening the show or going
Mm-hmm.
on right after the women's Rumble opens or something like that. So in that aspect, I do want Gunther to get his main event. The first Saturday night's main event, just thinking out loud, Cody versus Owens is probably going to be in the main event. The women's US title match will be on the card. You're probably getting one of two of the tag titles. It's either going to be the Judgment Day War Raiders match finally,
Yes.
or wouldn't be shocked if we got the Guns versus Street Profits versus DIY in a 3-way. We still don't have the official card for Survivor Series. There's still going to be one or two more matches added on there. I could see Judgment Day's tag title match being on Survivor Series because that's a little bit closer
Mm-hmm.
than the 3-way of the tag titles. And then you're going to mix in the women's world and the women's WWE title as well. So that first card really is shaping up to be, and you could even have the IC title, Sheamus,
Yeah.
Ludwig Kaiser, and Bronson Reed. Also have to factor in LA
And who?
Knight in Bronson Reed, Jesus. Braun Breaker. Yeah, thank you. Factor in LA Knight and Shinsuke. That's not going to
Yep.
happen right away at Survivor Series. I would think that feels more like a Saturday night's main event. But you're not going to have 15 matches, and they're going to be on cable TV, much stricter time. I'm sure there's going to be a boatload of ads and commercials on it as well. Who knows? But there's a ton of matches to go around. And it is refreshing that we're not as locked into everything revolves around the bloodline when you start thinking about these shows. There are other avenues, there are big matches,
Yeah.
there are big title matches that we're going to start to see play out.
Yeah, honestly, even if they run back-to-back main events, Saturday main events, neither of them need the bloodline. They can run both those shows without either bloodline faction, and they're still going to be great shows. And again, I said earlier, I fucking hate it. But, I'm joking a little bit. I don't like it. It could be better. It could be worse. I'm not a fan. If it was up to me, I would not be running in January. again, I kind of said this before, but December fits the bill real well because there's not a PLE, there's not a pay per view, there's not day one on January 1st either. So December needs something. Tribute to the Troops is an exhibition. That's not really a PLE. They've never treated it like so. So it needs something. Again, we're just throwing it in there. It's in the middle of January. It really fits like Saudi does to me, where Saudi's just thrown in the middle of two pay per views and it's a bit exhibition. So I feel like even if they throw a Gunther World Title match on that card, it's still going to feel a bit more exhibition. This Saturday night's main event, I'm not saying Owens goes over, but it kind of needs something big to happen. There almost needs an Owens title win or something along those lines to make it must see TV. It makes that January one, well, anything can happen. Even if it doesn't, it means anything can happen on any Saturday night's main event. There's been title changes in Saudi, don't get me wrong. They're forgettable. They're not great. And I don't want the Saturday night's main event run to turn into that. Now, also, as I mentioned, I believe they've signed on for 4 primetime events. It's not even confirmed that they're all Saturday night main events. You know, they can come up with an entirely new thing. This whole January event is not even confirmed. We're all just, this podcast might be null and void in a week when they announce it for June or something. Who knows, you know? But the rumor mill has been circling that there is a January Saturday night's main event. And I'm hoping there's not. But if there is, it's only the best wrestling in the world being put on primetime TV. I ain't that mad.
The rumor mill was also going crazy about something else on social media, and it's something that I know we'll agree on that we both like. Granted, we
Okay.
agree on a lot of things.
Mhm.
We keep talking about this Raw debut on Netflix January 6th, going to be treated like a PLE. We see the names being advertised. We've also seen people clicking on the shows on Netflix. I cannot confirm this, but I saw it on social media. People showing Monday Night Raw listed as TV14,
Yep.
which is not a surprise with them
Yeah.
going on to Netflix, essentially having free reign. Not fully, you still have sponsors you have to, please.
Yeah.
But I think we need to have our conversation that we've had before. Pump the brakes.
Yeah. I mean, listen, TV14 is better for wrestling. As
Of
a whole, it
course.
is. I understand the PG era in wrestling. Vince McMahon, I understand the hatred towards Vince McMahon, but he is a wrestling genius, if we're being honest. He has discussed, even in the Vince McMahon doc, wrestling transitioned from that attitude era to a ruthless aggression era, and it transitioned out of that ruthless aggression to a PG era. Wrestling hit a bad point. It started dying a little bit. Kids were loving it, adults not so much. So they doubled down on the kids. They targeted towards that audience, and they made more money than ever at that point. And now it's fading away again. They're making more money than ever again in this new TV14 era. It's not going to be the attitude era. We're not getting it to that extent. We're not getting blood every week, I don't think. We're not going to get, I think, what the people are hoping for. We're going to get it in spurts, which is great. That's how it should be. But calm down a little bit. I don't think we're getting what people think we're getting.
I think people are being a little dramatic about it, considering since Mania,
Yeah.
even before, I should say before Mania, since before Mania, it's been pretty close to a TV14 program. It is
Absolutely. Yeah.
definitely not PG. That's for sure. They have not
Yeah.
been. Yes, this means they probably won't bleep every chant that's a holy shit or shut
Yeah.
the fuck
Oh,
up or
that's
anything like
great.
that. That part's great. They won't completely black out the screen when someone gives the middle finger. That part's great. But
Yeah.
the actual show itself and what they're doing, I don't think will be that different. And
Yeah.
I'm glad we're getting blood here and there at the correct and proper times that it's needed. We're getting curse words at the correct and proper time that it's needed. We've been getting these things.
Yeah.
They happen in these little moments and they feel impactful when they do. Sometimes they they don't sound the greatest. I think of like Cody's promo on The Rock. Like
Yeah.
love Cody, but didn't
Yeah.
didn't really hit the same as The Rock's curses.
Yeah.
It's there. We're seeing the blood. We're
Hmm.
seeing the curses. Like people that have kind of bought into this massive change, like you're already seeing it. And if you
Yeah.
don't realize it, I don't know what to tell you. Like
Yeah.
the product has been good partially due to the fact that they aren't being super PG. They're towing the line with things. They're letting things, you know, be authentic.
Absolutely. And that's great. I just think we're going to get a little bit more of an extension of what we currently have. It's going to kind of
Yes.
be, maybe a big first week or two, for sure. But then it's going to kind of just be the TV we are currently getting, which has been good. Maybe again, it's a little bit more TV14, the no more bleeped out chants from the fans, things like that. But I don't think we're getting thumbtacks and chair shots to the head and, you know, girls flashing and stuff, like it's not
And
getting back.
besides the last one, I don't
Yeah.
want the first two. I don't need to see the first two.
Actually, let's bring back the third one. Okay. Yeah.
The third one, I wouldn't mind. No,
Yeah.
no, but in all seriousness, I was gonna say it before you mentioned the third one. I don't need thumbtacks and stuff like
The
I
thing
don't need
is,
it.
those things are special when done rarely.
Yes.
Thumbtacks is like a specialty when done rarely. Thumbtacks, what match was it where they just pulled out a bag? I'm already forgetting. It was
Punk
recent.
Drew.
Punk Drew, right? Was it Punk Drew? Yeah, and
And
he dropped the
it was
beads. It was all the beads.
bracelet
Yeah.
beats, yeah.
Me, like everybody, probably thought it was thumbtacks at first. Oh, my eyes lit up. Oh, cool. Oh, this is sick. When was the last time we saw thumbtacks in WWE? It's been a minute, you know?
Yeah.
So listen, if they were to bust that out on January 6th, somebody gets chokeslammed the thumbtack, that's great. It's a great spot. If they do it the following week and then 2 weeks later again, and then the next week, it loses its lust. It's the same with the blood. I don't need those things. I like them when they're scarce.
I when I was at Bad Blood and that spot happened, I was immediately with the people that I was with, I immediately pulled out the Jerry Lawler impression. That's a bag of sand. He's got a bag of sand.
Yeah.
It's a bag of sand. Fully expecting thumbtacks to be poured out.
Yeah. That was a good spot. It was a good spot. I'm honestly, I'm more happy that was beads. It plays more to the story than it did if it was thumbtacks. Again, maybe we get a cool spot, but that's a rough one to take too. Let's be real. I ain't taking no thumbtack spot. You gotta be, pay me the big bucks. Maybe I will. We'll see. But
What did NXT recently do?
Legos, I think.
Yes.
Yeah,
Was it
Legos.
Legos?
What I think it was Legos, right?
I don't know. Now I'm drawing a blank. I feel like it was something else.
I think it was Legos.
Maybe it was
Nuts and bolts.
nuts and bolts.
Okay.
That's what it
Get
was.
out of here with
Yes.
that garbage. Nuts. It might as well be cotton balls in there. All right, come on. Nuts and bolts. You're right. I forgot
I
about
knew
that
it was something that
trash.
wasn't that
Yeah.
that didn't hit as
Yeah.
well.
I remember seeing that bag again. Now that we're talking about it, I remember seeing that be like, oh shit. Oh shit. Like, yeah, get that out of here. That's crazy. Nuts and bolts. Come on.
Yeah, that's not a great one.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
that's a rough one.
Honestly, bag of sand would have been better. Sand, I could throw sand
Yeah.
at you or so,
Yeah, that would have
Yeah.
been funnier.
Yeah, that was a bad one.
On back on the topic though of Monday Night Raw
Yeah.
moving to Netflix, there was other discourse about it. And it's something I also need to calm the people down.
Mhm.
Calm down. Netflix had the Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson fight.
Yeah. Good.
Good. It buffered like crazy. Looked,
Yeah.
it was Bruce and Michael Buffer everywhere.
Yeah.
Terrible. Everybody immediately went into panic. Granted, plenty of people making funny jokes of like WWE when they're on Netflix. Oh, that joke as well.
Yeah.
But WWE when they're on Netflix and it's like a big moment's about to happen, and
Yeah.
like the Sami Zayn was about to turn on Roman Reigns and it freezes, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Everyone went into full panic about it.
Yeah. Yep.
And I think people forgot just how bad the WWE network was for when it first launched.
Yep.
And that was That was WrestleMania 30 for Netflix times 50.
Yep.
You know, they say 60 million homes, whatever. Who knows how many people actually watched it or didn't watch it? They can make those numbers up essentially.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they're going to figure it out. Yes, there might be some growing pains, but I don't think that's going to be an everlasting issue
Yeah.
because guess what? If it became a consistent issue, people are going to cancel their subscription.
Yes. Also, I feel like one of the biggest points, we love wrestling. I watch it all. How many people do you really think are going to be live watching Raw on Netflix? As many as the Jake Paul Tyson fight. Like, think about it a little bit
You're
and
talking
check in with me. You know?
maximum
Yeah.
3 million,
Yeah. I was
which is
just
a
going to say the
lot.
same number. I was just going to say the same number. Maximum 3 million. And that might take time to build up to. That's not even immediate, you know. I'm led to believe they probably break 1 million easy on this January 6th debut. Hell, they could hit 2 million.
They
Maybe if
should.
it's they should. If it's consistent enough, maybe they do break that 3 million wall at some point. But that is astronomical numbers for really what is still a cable TV show, even when it goes to Netflix. Those are crazy ratings nowadays. Something like a Mike Tyson, of course, that's going to get outrageous numbers. Wrestling's not coming close to that. When Mania is on Netflix in a matter of years, listen, sure, maybe that those numbers will be higher, but it's already been on Peacock for ages. You know, all pay per views have been on Peacock. Oh, a lesser network. I think they'll be okay.
Absolutely. I think, yes, there might be the occasional, it's not going to be perfect every week.
Yeah,
Streaming's never perfect every week. If you watch the Amazon football games, most weeks they're fine. Then one random week, it's the stream's awful. Like
yeah,
it just happens sometimes. It sucks. That's the world we live in now.
yep,
I'm normally very against so many things moving to streaming platforms because you need to have a million different streaming platforms and it costs more than cable at this point. Like I don't have cable in my place. I have all streaming platforms, you name it. Even my TV is through a streaming provider. I am juiced for Raw going to Netflix,
hyped.
specifically them doing the overseas shows and it's still airing live. Yes, it might suck and it might, I might not be able to catch it live, but
Mm-hmm.
hello, it's on Netflix. I'll be able to just watch it as soon as I'm free and
Yeah,
stay off Twitter or whatever. That is like one of the biggest wins of them just going live at 3 o'clock
yeah,
for a show in England, for one random week or whatever in the lead up to Mania. Things like that. Like that is just being able to control it is such a big win.
yeah, absolutely. You know, I've already thought about this for my own use. I, like yourself, again, we're working guys. We go to work, we come home, we still got things to do. I cook a lot. I'm a big steak guy. I eat a lot of steak. I get home at 7:45 on a Monday. I want to make dinner before Raw. I don't have any angle in my kitchen to watch TV. I can pull it right up on my phone super easy now. I can get my iPad in there on Netflix. I can be out and about and oh man, you got to see so and so just returned. I can pull it up real quick. That type of use for not only the pay-per-views but Monday Night Raw, that's incredible. It's only a matter of time before WWE is just all over Netflix, all of it. I think honestly, I don't know how long the CW deal is. I kind of forget off the top of my head. When it's over, maybe they re-up it. Maybe when that one's over, it's streaming bound for sure. I don't even know if it gets that far. You know, it is fantastic for it to be on Netflix. I am very excited for that.
There is one big moment that I specifically remember missing. At the time, streaming was not as big. This is still WWE Network days, but this moment, I did not there wasn't really Hulu TV, YouTube TV, those things weren't a thing. I will never forget working at Lids on a Monday night.
Huh?
I worked Mondays all the time, so I'd watch Raw. I'd go to my sister's after and I'd rewind, see things, stay up late and then drive to school. Missing Shane McMahon's return while I was at work, and work was dead as can be. And I remember it was like no one was posting that video for the first 20 minutes. I am like dying to see. I am searching Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, you name it. No one's posting it. I'm like, oh my God, the group chat's blowing up. I want to see this damn thing. Of course, I'm at work. Now, I don't recommend being at work and streaming shows, but if you have the ability to, man, that would have been great to just pull out my phone real quick, click the rewind 30 seconds a couple times,
Yep.
see that moment, love it, and then go back to working.
Yeah, again, the ease of use with it all. It's the same with all this streaming football. Like you said, again, I can just be out and about and I can pull the game up, and it's easy. It's only a matter of time before everything is streaming and cable is dead. Again, wrestling is a very niche community, but it's also the biggest thing in the world, honestly, when it comes to the world of sports, things like that. There's obviously soccer, baseball. There's some big sports in the world, but WWE being one of the first things to almost permanently come off of cable, Raw, especially the longest running episodic TV show of all time, whatever they call it. That going to streaming is the first stepping stone to the death of cable. That is going to be the original end to it.
Also, just remembered NFL on Christmas is going to be on Netflix, which
Yep.
will do crazy numbers.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be shocked if that stream is much better.
Not just any NFL game. It's a Pittsburgh Steelers game, baby. Beating the Kansas City Chiefs on Christmas. They're going to do it. I'm telling you. Money line, bet it.
Responsibly. Anyways,
Yeah.
it will be, I don't know if it's going to be it'll do more numbers than Raw weekly because football runs this country. In the US speaking, not globally. But that'll be a good sign, like a good tell. If they haven't fixed things up for that game, people will be going bonkers over that. So Netflix is still very new to these things. And for me personally, I think it's kind of nice as a wrestling fan that they're doing these things before WWE debuts. So WWE isn't the guinea pig.
Yeah.
I
feel like they would
they've
normally
done
be
these,
the guinea pig.
Yeah, exactly. They did the Jake Paul event, and although some people it worked, most people it didn't. Like they're able to learn from these mistakes. They're able to, fix these things. So by the time Raw is not even 2-3 weeks in, everything should be running smoothly.
Yeah, absolutely. I have no worry, honestly, for the stream, all that. I think it's going to be fine. And honestly, if it buffers, I'm going to live to tell the tale. I'll be okay. If it buffers and you're complaining about it, I don't know. As Shane O'Mac would say, if you ain't talking money, then your talking don't matter. Go buy a new router. I don't know what to tell you. There's ways to fix it, I guess. It's not that big of a deal. Again, the Rumble, Mania, when those bigger events start streaming, yeah, of course I want them to run as smoothly as possible. I don't really have any complaints about Peacock anymore. Even Peacock fixed it up over the years. I think Netflix is going to be just fine.
Yeah, and there's still things about Peacock that I don't like, and I've just grown accustomed to that. It's just okay, whatever. Like the fact that everything is listed as seasons, and it's like, oh, I want to watch SummerSlam 2002.
You just made my night worse, honestly, just by mentioning that.
Yeah,
that is the worst. The
So
Peacock
hopefully Netflix
layout
doesn't
is
do that.
so frustrating. It's not even funny. It actually just made me madder thinking about it. Matter's a word too. All right. God, I was going through the network, the network, I still call it. I was going through Peacock literally like 2 or 3 days ago, just going through Manias, threw one on in the background, and was thinking, oh my God, like trying to get to one was frustrating.
It's so annoying. But to wrap things up, I mean, we've been talking about the Raw debut on Netflix. We may as well finish talking about the Raw debut on Netflix because one of the last things that they mentioned were the names advertised / the names people are expecting on Raw. Mr. John Cena will be there. We have Travis Scott. His unreleased music will be the theme. So it was Travis Scott, right?
Yeah, correct. Yep.
Yeah.
It's my favorite.
He will be there. Yeah, I know you've been to 5 of his concerts already, so this will be a surreal moment for you. In the Intuit Dome, I think it's called in LA, the Clippers new arena, which looks insane.
Yep.
So that also is pretty cool. But man, I just I don't want to keep straying away from the brand split.
I know that's where I'm hurting a little bit on a lot of the current things going on. I think that's really part of maybe like me being a little iffy on the Bloodline storyline is that they've so straight off the brand split, and they had to get that Bloodline story to work. Really, there's other ways he could have done it. I mean, it would have been cheesy, but like he could have had a trade for Jey Uso or something. I'm really hoping post Mania 41, we really get like maybe another draft and a true brand split. And when I say true, I really mean like I want the writing teams going against each other. I want them all out there trying to make the best show possible. Friendly competition. It worked so well in the Ruthless Aggression era. I know wrestling goes through like waves, kind of, they go through these eras, but I think they are at a point right now where they need to create their own competition again. Raw and SmackDown need to be showing out to be their best brands. Little side note I want to mention. If it hasn't been noticed, I believe there are no Raw women in the U.S. title tournament. Therefore, that would kind of make you think an intercontinental title is coming, right?
Yeah.
So then you're going to have both brands with a full slot of men's titles, women's titles. It couldn't be a better timing to split the brands and have a brand supremacy war. The NXT guys, the girls, when they come up, where do they want to sign? I think it was Braun Breaker and Carmelo that were floating back and forth between Aldis and Pierce, and they officially signed somewhere. And then a week later, we had a draft, so it didn't matter anyways. But there's ways to do it and make it work. Bring back the brand split 2025.
I think we probably are likely. I can't think of the women's tournament off the top of my head, but
Mm,
we probably are likely to get the women's intercontinental title.
yes.
And I'm not going to get my hopes up, but I think that might lead to them finally getting rid of the women's tag titles.
Mm,
It will extremely elevate the new women's title that they bring in. And it clearly is the right. We've seen it with NXT. It's clearly the correct move to have two singles titles instead of the tag titles. Much
yeah.
easier to book. Completely agree on the brand split. I think it's going to be a very loose split throughout Mania.
Yeah.
The killer, though, that's going to last all year is Cena.
Yeah. Cena is going to be the killer. Now, they did this a few years ago when they did a draft or a whatever shakeup they want to call it. Free agents. I think that's okay to give to John Cena, Brock Lesnar if he ever comes back. That's it. Like there should be a real cap on who can float between what brands and do what they will. Cena's honestly maybe the only name I'd even argue that should be able to do that. I'm not opposed to Cena floating around because his situation is what it is, but I do agree. I want it to be as strict as possible, so I get it.
Yeah, and you're gonna get. We see the SmackDown names that are potentially being advertised for the first Raw. We're creeping towards the Rumble right after that. So you're going to
Mm-hmm.
get that overlay of Rumble participants, those stories. That always ends up with people ending up on both brands, especially after the Rumble winner.
Yeah,
They show up on both brands as well. So I think we are going to have a very loose brand split, but not terribly. Like I think plenty of names. Like I don't expect the tag champs on SmackDown to be
yeah,
showing
yeah,
up
yeah.
on Raw. Like I think you have enough where it's what they do before the free agents where it was like they had it where certain wrestlers were locked to a show and then some were on both. I forget what the hell they called it. It wasn't free agents.
See, like that's almost a blur to me because that was a rough time in
Yeah,
wrestling,
this
to
is a
be
rough
honest.
era when
So
they were doing this.
that's a blur even. That's where Vince was, man, maybe really starting to lose his mind just in creative and just coming up with shit. And it didn't work out. And I feel like maybe it's because he wrestled through the era, but like Triple H just feels like a brand split guy to me. I feel like he'd be strong on that. They brought back general managers, been calling for that for ages. Bring back GMs that establishes something within the brands. You really have a brand supremacy war here. Hell, this goes so long. It can go so many ways. You bring back brand splits. You can bring back the title SmackDown versus Raw on the video game. There's like markets that you can explore by having a separate brand split. that you maybe can't do when you're having the crossover. And I get the crossover gives you more ability, things like that. But the Bring Split also makes shows more must see. This guy's only here. This girl's only here. So I got to tune in on Friday. I got to tune in on Monday. If they're going to be on both shows, you know what? It's Friday night. I'll go out instead. I'll catch it on Monday. I don't know. That's just the way I look at it.
As we always say, trust Papa H.
Trust Papa H.
All trust in Papa H. But I am I'm pumped for the Raw debut on Netflix.
Yep.
I'm pumped for Saturday night's main event.
Same.
I'm pumped for Survivor Series.
Absolutely.
I know War Games has been watered down a little bit, and we still don't know the full card for Survivor Series. But it not only will be a fun show, because War Games is always fun. I can't wait to see EO jump off the cage again, do something wild.
Mm-hmm.
But we're gonna watch it together.
Not only together, the two of us, together with all of you, C2 Wrestling is going live for Survivor Series. If you have not heard the word, that is it. C2 Wrestling is going live for Survivor Series. And that isn't the only show we'll be doing live. As much as we can get together, again, we're real people. We have real lives. We work jobs. We are very focused on this. This takes the most importance in my life right now is C2 Wrestling. We're going to be here live as much as we can. All these PLEs, pay-per-views, big events. We're starting with Survivor Series. We always felt that was a good show to start on. We knew it was going to be War Games. We're looking forward to it, man. It's going to be a lot of fun.
There's going to be plenty more lives after that for PLEs, even for Raw and SmackDown post shows. We're going to have a lot of fun. As you mentioned earlier, we're still very new to this, so you got to be locked in. Please subscribe, turn on notifications for the people that are watching on YouTube. We want to talk wrestling. That's all. We just love to yap about wrestling.
Big yappers.
I could yap all day. There's a reason why my old radio show was called had ramble in it. I can ramble. I can ramble with the best of them. So please get down in the comments. Follow us on all of our socials. For Snowden, I'm CTD, another edition of the C2 Wrestling Podcast. We'll see you guys live in the SummerSlam watch party next Saturday. Plenty of stuff coming before that. We'll catch you guys next time.